Welcome everyone to Obsidian Office Hours. If you're new here, we're basically here to nerd out about Obsidian, which is a great note-taking tool. But to be honest, this is kind of also just like a high-level productivity session where we talk about any sort of gear and that kind of stuff that we might be using, things we're using to improve our workflows. So Obsidian just happens to be the engine that we're using to facilitate a lot of these thoughts, discussions, and to keep track of things honestly, because frankly, we have a lot of different ideas, I think, as we go day to day, learning about new things, and sometimes finding a way to kind of connect all those things together in a meaningful and cohesive way without all the administration work that often goes into managing data. Well, I mean, sign me up. So, with that said, I say let's go ahead and jump right in, shall we? All right. Okay, so first thing first, let's go and take a look at, we'll kick off sort of the new format here for those who might be joining sort of later on, is that, well, when it comes to Obsidian, there is a brand new release, 0.12.19. And the core plugin that to me is the highlight of this, honestly, is the fact that now we have slash commands inside of Obsidian. And so as you can see here, some of the highlights involve like a revamped theme store, download count. So there's a bunch of things regarding this. Oh, this is official now. So the reopen close pane with the browser. So to show you this, what I'm talking about, like if I went ahead and close this right now, this is one of those things where like, I'm like, how do I open the last thing? Now I do Command-Shift-T, it automatically reopens, which, sorry about that, which to me is fantastic. Oh, the new theme store is nice. Well, you know what? Apparently my theme is in there, so let's go ahead and let's see. Actually, you know what? It's probably in the release notes here. Oh, it wasn't? Oh, I half expected the release notes to be in here. All right, hold up. Obsidian themes. Oh, it's so funny that it's buried. Maybe there's a theme store in here. Community. All right, let's see. My guess is then the theme store might be instead in appearance, themes, manage. Oh, okay. Yep. Oh, nice that it has like the screenshots here. Then you can see I'm like, nice way to manage, delete. Oh, I do like this UI, to be honest. This is pretty neat. Huh. Although these are install themes, how do I browse new themes? I'm half expecting. I expected there to be a link. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the team adds it eventually. It's kind of like when you go to community plugins, there's a way to like browse. So I'm surprised there isn't a way to browse themes in this. But anyways, Arcneca here, Control-Shift-T is an underestimated feature. Absolutely, I agree. I can't tell you how many tabs on browsers I used to close by accident and I wanted to reopen. And whether if you're on Windows, Control-Shift-T, and then Mac by default, I believe it's Command-Shift-T. One of the best features ever. I love it. So, okay, so we talked about that, but, haha. Oh, there's a copy, wait, what? Copy code button. I wasn't aware of. All right, first thing first. Slash command. Oh, did I scroll? Oh, dude. All right, dude man here. Oh, wrong thing. If I come in here, go into theme, appearance, themes, manage. Oh, that is super interesting. So to dude man, thank you so much for that. Apparently, if you scroll, everything's in here. I will say this is not, I would say like there needs to be like an icon here that's like, scroll for more. I literally just thought this UI was just the themes. I was gonna say that felt a little bit weird. Or you know what? Like not even an icon, right? Because then obviously everyone's height visibility is different. Like maybe, I don't know, something to make the discoverability a little bit more. I would not have naturally scrolled, which is funny because if you look on the right here, actually, the scroll bar doesn't really like, it's not like it's obvious. It's just one straight pane of, or like this one shape of gray, as opposed to like maybe like we could argue if there's like a smaller scroll up here that I should have noticed maybe, but definitely more to be done for discovery. But to Dude Man point, this is nice being able to see kind of things in a preview mode. Clearly we need to find a way to standardize how people do their previews with the theme because it's kind of all over the place as far as different sizes and that kind of thing. And there's clearly like a happy medium, like this Claire de Lune one. Oh, I think that's beautiful. I like how they put a background of like the desktop on it, even though the theme itself doesn't come with that background. That is quite nice. I am not gonna. This is great. And so yeah, I guess my display is not too bad, but Maybe we could do a little bit more with it. Hey, how's it going, Noob Dev? Welcome to Obsidian Office Hours, where we talk about Obsidian, which is a popular note-taking app that uses Markdown, but also has a whole web API component to it. So development topics inevitably come up on this particular series. But then otherwise, we talk about just productivity workflow things too. So if you ever have questions or just want to check out what we're doing, yeah, feel free to ask questions. Thanks for coming. Okay, so we checked out the theme store, and so the next thing I want to talk about, which I'm excited about, is the slash command plugin. So let's talk about that. In the core plugins, if you look down here, and once again, I love it when UIs with configuration options give you a way to filter down the option you're looking for, rather than having to scroll and like do this like where's Waldo bit. Like just type what you're looking for, and hopefully, like, again, with enough aliases and good SEO, like, or by SEO, I mean, like, you put enough descriptions in there, people should land on the thing they're looking for. So slash commands, I've already enabled it here, as you can see, but it is something you do need to turn on. And so basically, this is call it a user pattern that I've noticed a lot more and more, especially with the advent of Notion and other things, which is this idea that you want to kick off a command using your keyboard without opening a command palette. So right now, right, if we wanted to insert something, let's say we want to insert a template, we'd have to hit like Command P, be like insert template, and then I would have to be like, okay, now I'm going to kick off the insert template modal, and then I'm going to do things, right? Nothing wrong with that. And in fact, we have hotkeys to shortcut that. But sometimes certain commands are things that you kind of want to do inline instead. And so what you might want to do instead is therefore use the / and check this out. Just by doing this, we already see that there is basically the command palette shortcut into here. Now, so things like, for example, if we want to insert, in the last session, we did like a current date snippet. So look, if I do like current, you'll see current is currently like, or there's apparently a lot of commands with current. So if I do like current date, here we go. You'll see that current date actually you'll see all the commands that are available to you just with using the /, which is great. So if I hit that, boom, it'll actually run the command. The only thing that's slightly unnatural about this though is if I do current space date, it breaks the command. So basically it is kind of assuming you're gonna write everything in this sort of single string, no white space, just characters. So that when you're inside of here and you do current date, that works, and that's totally fine. And then it does do a little bit of fuzzy searching. So if I did like CD, you'll notice that it doesn't literally look for CD next to each other. I'll actually go ahead and see that within a string, show me the things that have CD. The only thing though, clearly, is that it's kind of, the fuzzy searching is, I don't know, I wouldn't say as reliable as maybe you'd want it to be. So, you know, I would say just know that you'll start probably coming up with your own shortcuts to get to certain commands. And then as always, if you decide that a command is really what's shortcutting down to about 2 keystrokes usually, then be sure to go ahead and configure a hotkey for it, which you can do. I won't go over it here, but basically you can go and enable it here. So add embed, right? We want to do Command E for embed. Then there you go, Command E. Now this won't work for me because I already have something here. You'll see that if I hover over this, I'm using the E to toggle preview and edit mode. So that's why that's what the E means to me at least. So that's how you would do that. So the / is really great. I can foresee a lot more interesting uses of it, especially if you're talking about inserting little snippets inside of your template. Like, so right now, for example, right, if I want to insert the about template, I have to do things like I have to hit the command, I have to hit about, and then there's my about snippet. But it might be nice, to be honest, if I had a command that was like about. So you know what? Heck, let's just try that right now. So I'm going to go in and using the templater plugin, I'm going to go ahead and create a new command. And this one, I want to do the about section. And so if you're new to this, what this basically is doing is just saying that like, hey, this is a template I insert very frequently. Instead of just making me go to the command palette and then make me autocomplete and then hit enter, I want to go ahead and just have it hook up. And so this is great. So now that this is here, I can go ahead and say, all right, so if this works the way I think it will, then I could say about template. Oh, it works. Oh, I like this very much. Oh, fantastic. And then Dude Man is here saying that it works in Vim mode as well. So excellent. Which, by the way, actually, this is a fun little trivia bit. Where is the Vim mode in here? Editor. Oh yeah, here. If you try to turn on Vim mode in not VS Code, clearly I've been doing a lot of development. Inside of Obsidian, check this out. It says Vim mode is basically, it might make it look like Obsidian has stopped working because it can be counterintuitive for those who haven't learned it. To verify you know your way around Vim, please enter the command to quit Vim without saving below. And so I think this is pretty great because it's one of those things where I believe it's the #1 Stack Overflow question, and I think it has been forever. So I think that is fantastic. Like, what a great... I just like the user experience on this particular piece. Absolutely amazing. So anyways, that said, okay, so the / is great, and it's making me think like, gosh, I should really consider... yeah, I could really consider at some point going in and probably creating a lot more template hotkeys that I can just access using /, because that is pretty darn powerful, especially when you think about just like because I'm inserting inline snippets like a lot now that I think about it. So I might have to come up. The only reason why you're seeing me hesitate on this, to be honest. Oh, I just realized when I do my thinking pose, apparently I'm like completely out of the frame. So I'll try to, is this better? I think. Okay, yeah, I will think this way instead of this way. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So the reason why I'm like hesitating a little bit is only because, yes, this is great for setup. I just wish there was a slightly more scalable way for me to create hotkeys that like I could almost be like for all the files in this folder, just make hotkeys for them, because this is a decent amount of manual operations, especially because a lot of my text snippets are really small. So again, this is just me being a developer and thinking about, can I automate this somehow? But it's totally fine. It's fine. So that said, for example, one of the things I do a lot is recommended by. This is something where I am creating a new note. So for example, recently my friend Dizzy was telling me about a book. And so let's say that book, again, just for the sake of argument, in this case, the book he recommended was To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. So I'll just say, let's say the book was To Sleep in a Sea of Moons, right? To Sleep in a Sea of Moons, right? Let's just say that's the book. Well, inside of this, for me, this is a book for me, so I would be like type book. But then something I do really frequently is I want to say who recommended it to me, because I don't remember who talked about it. So now I can just do, oh my gosh, yes, I love this. That is so much faster. And also, I would say visually, I like it better than popping this up and then doing recommended by and then hitting enter. Like this just... I feel like I'm typing recommended by, I mean, not even I feel like, I'm literally typing recommended by as I like an editor thing, and then it swaps it out. Oh man, this is great. And I can be like, oh yeah, Dizzy is the one who like recommended it to me. Oh, this is so good. I am so excited about that. Oh man. Okay. The only thing though, I'm actually curious about this, because the thing about Obsidian, when we're thinking about some of the, like, as I've like learned about like plugin setups and that kind of thing, is that at one point, these, like, especially when you're pointing to templates, normally they're configured via like a autocomplete that ends up being just a string. And the reason that's relevant, in case you don't have a programming background, is it means that string is like, once you set it, it is static, it's fixed. In other words, when you rename the file later on, it has no context whatsoever, because it just for one time just like copy and pasted the string and was just like, this is where it lives. But what I'm hoping to see, which I think it looks promising here, is that they're connected to the actual file name, because one of the things I love about Obsidian a ton is that whenever I decide to rename my note, I don't have to, I trust Obsidian to go through and update all the links to it. Like, I don't have to worry about that. Whereas like if anyone's done any manual sort of management of link editing, whoa, it is a mess. So, okay. Oh, okay. I have a question from Raslish. I apologize if I mispronounced that. Regarding a CRM workflow. Ooh, this is a great topic. Okay, hang on to that. Let me do this first. Okay, so the reason why I'm saying that is because if you'll notice, I'm starting to move away from... I had this idea at one point that all of my templates would be like, start with the template name, so in this case, about, and then I would like try to tag the name with the type of template it was. Like, this is a heading, and then I would tag like the, or not type, but like the subtype, and then the type was the section template. I went really down a far rabbit hole with that, and I seem to regret it. So with the about heading template, for example, oh whoops, let me open the about heading template. Okay, For me, really, this to me is actually, I really just need the about. And I've realized I don't like having all the H2s and stuff already defined for me, because when I'm in a document, what I might want to do is just simply continually use the same emoji with the same pairing. So for me, this is just a block template, really. And then let me just move this into my templates folder. Okay, and so what I'm hoping is, because I've renamed it, what I'm really, really hoping here is that inside of templates, or templater, oh, it did not do it. It is a static string. All right, fine. That's a little annoying, because it means I'm going to have to go through and just sort of, I mean, granted, the autocomplete works really, really well. So obviously, like, if it's last modified, like, I'll just last modified, like, that's it. So it's not a huge deal. It's just, I wonder, again, I've like dipped my toes into plugin development, but I wonder if there's more we could do to, like, and, you know, especially if any Obsidian developers are listening, or if the team is listening, maintainers, one, love the work that you're doing, but two, I wonder if there's a way to, like, expose it so that, especially because a lot of Obsidian to me and sort of linked relationship thinking is the ability to keep track of those relationships. And if you're configuring things in plugins that rely on specific files, my personal theory is that that should be then related to, like, the specific ID of said object, so that if things should change, like, basically the plugin won't just automatically break. Again, that's like perfect perfect user experience. Again, not a major deal, not a deal breaker whatsoever, but something to just observe. So while I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and actually update my recommended by template, because that is clearly very, very old. So this is a block template. And for now, I'm starting to just kind of move all of my templates into the same folder. At one point, I was grouping them by, like, blocks and, like, folders, just, like, maybe make it easier for people to navigate. But I don't know. Things to think about. Okay. So that was fun. Okay, okay, so the slash command, super, super big deal. This is great. So those are your kind of, I think, high-level updates. Oh, no, you know what? I had one more thing I wanted to check out, which is this copy code block button. What is this? Okay, let's test this out real quick. So if we have, say, example code, and let's say we'll use JavaScript, and let's just do a const count equals ref 0, for example, export double count equals count.value times 2, for example. Is this saying what I think it's saying? Oh man, I think so. So now that I copy it, if I was like needed to paste it, I don't know, heck, in VS Code. So here, open up a new tab. Hey, that worked exactly as I expected. Excellent. Actually, here's the question though. What if you're copying to another note? So here I'll just do, like, I have a sandbox note. Actually, here's my sandbox note. All right, and then I can just paste. Okay, so it doesn't copy the backticks in, like, the JavaScript language that, like, the annotation, which is totally fine though, to be honest, because when you click copy here, you are copying the code inside of it. So this is great. Okay, Raslich. First initial E. Okay, great. Okay, so my apologies. So you know what? Okay, so Raslit, what I'll do is here, actually, I'm going to do it right now. I am going to track your CRM in Obsidian. And oh, that's not what I want at all. CRM in Obsidian. I'll create a new note for that. And then I am failing with my shortcuts. CRM in Obsidian. Because here's the thing. When you're in Quick Switcher, open a new pane. I don't want to open it. I want to create. I really wish there was a shortcut for create a new pane, to be honest, because I don't like overriding my current note. But anyways, inspired by Ras. There you go. And then, yes, we will talk about that, I think, next session then, since you're not here. I would love to have you here when doing it live so that we can interact. But customer relationship management, for those who don't know, that's what CRM stands for. That's what that's all about. And to be honest, relationship management in Obsidian is a whole topic in itself that I'm really, really passionate about. So, hey, I see that Jimena and Chris have made it in the chat. Cassidy, what's up? Yo, if y'all just joined, y'all missed some good stuff. We have some pretty great updates from Obsidian regarding things like copy code block, little forward snippets. So now if I ever want to just be like, hey, look, recommended by / oh no, it lost the, oh, I remember, I broke it. Hang on, I was doing a refactor. I got interrupted, recommended by. And now that this is a hotkey, I can be like recommended by, bam, and I can be like, hey, check it out. Jimena is the one who recommended it to me, which is amazing. Oh, sorry. All right, Jimena, you're in a meeting. I will try not to bother you too much. Hey, what's up, Tamaz? It's been a little while. Yo, we need to play some Fortnite sometime. It's been too long. All right. Anyways, side tangent aside. Okay, great. So copy, okay, so actually, what did we talk about? We talked about copy code block. What else did we talk about? I was happy about that. Oh yeah, reopen, close panes. Actually, we went over all the highlights. So, I mean, kudos to them for knowing what people are excited about. Those are all actually worth going over. So, bravo to them. What? I see Prince in the channel. What is up? Yes, okay. Fortnite party play. We are going to make that happen. Let's make that happen. All right, so that was done. I don't really need data. It's fine. I'm not gonna worry about that right now. Okay. With that, we've actually, funny enough, that took a little bit of time. Normally Obsidian updates are kind of quick, but I think this particular release with all the little enhancements is quite exciting. So happy that that is officially released for the public. And yeah, y'all should be really excited. Okay. Obsidian Roundup highlights. So once again, let's do the Obsidian Roundup highlights for the week. So this is Obsidian Roundup dot. Oh wait, what? Oh. I guess she didn't. Okay. Once again, I always want to give a shout out to her every week. So if you haven't followed her already, Eleanor Connick does a phenomenal job wrapping up the community updates every week. And so here we're gonna do a highlight as far as the things I thought were interesting. And so as far as the two things I wanted to share with y'all is the Obsidian Charts plugin, which actually Jacob, who unfortunately I don't think he's here today, but he did a stream on this and was actually able to get the Obsidian Charts working with Dataview, if I'm not mistaken. So as you can see here, what it basically does is it gives you the syntax to mark things as charts, and then it uses chart.js to render things. So you could actually like basically chart things out. I sensing a lot of potential with this, particularly with Dataview, and like maybe like showing like how your nodes are growing, or I don't know. I have thoughts, but like it's not crystal yet. So I think when I have a clear problem I'm gonna solve, when I want Obsidian to render charts in combination with data that might query from like a Dataview, that I think 100% I can guarantee you I will be doing that live on a stream. So which is super exciting. I see from Tamaz in the chat that apparently his theme was featured in the roundup. What? Okay, let's figure that out. So here, which theme is it, Tamaz? Okay, is it Sodalite? Oh man, okay, there's no author here. Oh, it is. It's Sodalite. And if it's Sodalite, I apologize. So this is a theme from Tamaz. So I thought I'd go ahead and feature that because, oh man, this is great. Look at all these change. Oh man, you even have a change log. I am impressed. Bravo, Tamaz. Bravo. So this is very legit. So if you actually, you know what? I forgot. Since I'm mentioning this clearly must go in the agenda, because what we're gonna get to do is, again, I'm trying to get better at these. Call it show notes and that kind of stuff, and then eventually, hopefully, there's an actual published page per video, etc., one thing at a time. And so, yeah, so Obsidian Charts, totally, please check that out. I'm particularly excited because it can be integrated with Dataview, which is, man, if you ask me for my top plugin, that is tricky. But like, Dataview might be my favorite plugin out of all. If I could only pick one. Might be Dataview. I don't know. It's tricky. And maybe I should do a video at some point on like my favorite Obsidian plugins, because it's definitely changed over time, and that's sad. Okay, so Obsidian Charts, check that out. And oh, I see in Casadoo, Templater and Dataview. Yeah, so those are definitely in the top 3. I think the other one that I'm having trouble with is periodic notes, because having to notes that are corresponding to like day, week, and month, I think it's really cool. And so that is a pretty big part of my workflow, but like, yeah, it's tricky. Version later. Okay, I see thesis here. It's all nice and dandy, but 4 years, sorry, versions later, this note panel overriding nonsense is still infuriating. Note panel overriding nonsense. I'm not sure what you're referring to, thesis. Overriding. Insert as a command. Yeah, I'm actually curious what you mean by note panel overriding. Can we open the note when we click it in a sidebar in a new panel instead of overriding? Oh, that. Okay, so yes, you can open. So you'll notice that if I want to open again, what did I do? Like how to create custom scripts in Obsidian. You'll notice at the very bottom here, they actually do have quite a few options regarding like opening it with just enter and then command enter to open it in a new pane. So for here, so if I go and hover over this and hit command enter, that will actually open it in a new pane. So that actually works, for me, that works perfectly the way I want. And then to Dude Man's point, if you actually have the note here and you command click, oh no, wait, not command click, command shift click. Oh, wait. I know what it is. I think I have to be in preview mode. If I'm in preview mode and I command click, that will open it in a new note. But I just realized when you're in editing mode, that didn't quite work. Maybe command shift click, command shift click seems to work inside of editor. So if you're command shift click, that will do exactly what you want as far as opening it in a new pane. The minor UX annoyance for me is in creating a new note, because nowadays I actually don't use the new note prompt. So if you say like create a new note, funnily enough, there is a create new note in a new pane somewhere. So hold on, if I create a new note, no, that overrides it. So let me delete that. I vaguely remember there was a setting for that where you could actually create, you know what, let me look at the hotkeys real quick. Again, here we go. Create note in new pane. This is great because that means that the feature, well, I mean, it would make sense that the feature fundamentally exists. But and this is where it would be nice if one day, if the maintainer's ever watching, I would love to helping with like submitting a PR for this UX improvement, because I have come to the opinion of creating new note as a dialogue. I think I'll go as far to say it's an anti-pattern for true linked thinking, because when you create a new note, a lot of times you're focused on one thing and one thing only, which is creating that note. And when I say it's an anti-pattern, it's because you are doing that without the context of the rest of your notes. So if I'm sitting here and I'm like, yeah, I really want to create a note on, something with scripts, right? Like what's nice about it is that the moment I type script in the quick switcher, it tells me what already exists in my note. So hence reinforcing that linked thinking idea. When you create a new note, it's basically in a vacuum. It's just saying like, okay, I just want to create a note on scripts, boom. But this reminds me, oh, I have these different notes that I took on, like view script setup, etc. And maybe what I want to actually take a note on makes more sense in that. The only problem though, is that if I want to create a new note, that's where this particular experience is a little bit detrimental, or there's like a little bit of subpar UX to say, because as you can see, I can open in a new pane. I can create actually with shift create, but that's it. What I would love, and I think what would be the perfect complement to this, is because if command enter is open in a new pane, then I would argue that command shift enter would actually create a new note in a new pane. And just to make sure that doesn't magically work because they just didn't document it. So as I say, script magic note. So here's the thing, look, enter to create is great. But if I hit command shift enter, okay, that worked. And the reason that worked was that was command enter while it wasn't hovering over a different item. So let me delete this note. Let's try that one more time. And then we're doing what? Script magic. Okay, maybe not script. Okay, what if I wanted to create a note that was called script set? I didn't want it to be script setup. I didn't want it to be view script setup. Right now, if I hit command enter, what you'll notice is it actually opens the current note that's highlighted, which actually makes sense. That makes total sense. On the other hand, if I wanted script set, not script setup, at this point, it says I have to hit shift enter to create, but that will override the current pane. So I'm going to try command shift enter. Drats. Nothing. Okay. Again, not the biggest of deals. It's just a little bit annoying because now I have to hit shift enter. That will override the current note. Not loving that. I would love the option to open in a pane because I like this. Again, if we're talking about link thinking and threading ideas, why not have again, that's why the side panes work really well for me in particular. But alas, this is minor. But I would say if at some point it was, I don't know, easier, I think this is why people enhance the quick switcher. It would be nice to make that part of the default. Okay, so let me check the chat. Hey, all right, thesis, excellent. I'm glad that your question could actually help solve a problem for you, because that's something that I care a lot about as far as opening a new pane. Now, again, the quick switcher part, a little bit subpar, but so to thesis, yeah. So thesis here brings up an excellent point about modifying default behavior, and I would say for the most part, Obsidian has been gosh darn near perfect when it comes to like allowing you to just customize things the way you want. So what I mean by that is the fact that hotkeys are so easy to configure on any command that you want, but you also have the command palette, and now you have this / like it really does allow you to kind of optimize certain workflows for certain types of tasks. Because once again, as a review, if I wanted to do recommended by, the slowest path to inserting recommended by, the snippet I created, would be to go to my command palette, to go insert template by, and then assuming I didn't create a hotkey for it, then I'd have to open the modal, then I would go recommended by, and I think we're like 3 or 4 steps in before I hit enter, and then we got it. And then so it was great, because then it was like, okay, shortcut it, right? You can open the modal. So the modal now was like 1 step closer, recommended by. But then now it's even faster. I can just hit /, which means I don't have to hit 3 keys. I hit 1 key, and then recommended. I can easily sort through, enter, done. Very, very natural as far as you. The only thing though is to Thesis's point, I think, and this is where I think, and I've been thinking a lot about this when starting to build my own things, like allowing users to naturally configure the default stuff that works the best for them, I think is one of those things where I'm hoping to see more, call it, more advancements in this particular realm of UX, because most of the times I've found that with user experience, and for good reason, they start with like a very opinionated way of doing things. But I think what we're seeing with developer toolings getting more popular and people starting to understand the power of personalization when it comes to tech, they're starting to realize that like I want to do things a bit differently, and it would make my life actually quite significantly better if I could like basically personalize it to how I work. Because think about it, a lot of these small commands we run and we do are things we actually do multiple times a day, and they basically can be roadblocks in how we think and how we process information. So in this particular regard, then, like, I would like to say, for example, if I had the chance to do main, or if I was like a maintainer on this, it'd be nice if like this panel on the bottom here regarding navigation, opening, it'd be nice if this was actually configurable. So like in somewhere, so like to Thesis' point, actually maybe like a VS Code, at the bare minimum, there's a place to like swap out that like maybe command enter does not open in a new pane, maybe command enter is actually create in a new pane. I'd love to be able to configure stuff like that. Again, I know that from a programming perspective, it can get a little haywire because there's so many preferences to track and how to wire it up. But I do think as the trade-offs for building things and people start to abstract things more and more away, I do think this will become more and more the future. And I will at least tell you that, at least for me personally, if you ever use any software that I plan on developing, I like being able to personalize your workflow to whatever you want, to the point of like, I also have a theory, honestly, as well, that like when it comes to things like dashboards and that kind of stuff, that you should even be able to alias it to whatever you want, because that's the kind of thing where it seems like something that should be hard coded. Like, I don't know. Again, this is not the best example, but let's say for whatever reason, hotkeys just didn't work for me, right? I call them like quick commands. Like quick commands makes much more sense to me as on my brain. To me, I would just allow users to be like basically configure. I would think that it might be useful to actually let users configure that, to be like, you know what, I'm going to call these quick commands going forward. I'm not going to call them hotkeys. Again, that's more of an experimental thought, but something I've been playing around with. But anyways, all right. We have that. We've created scripts. This is great. Oh, good. Tamaz, thank you so much. Okay, so what enables the template or template list? Oh, yes. Okay. So this is something we covered, I think, but anyways, I'm again, these kind of things totally worth reviewing because sometimes we miss it. We're watching stuff. And so basically, if you update template or plugin, they have this new section inside of their configuration called template hotkeys. And it works basically, I had a slight, so almost as easily as you would like it to be. And so as you can see here, you can actually configure hotkeys. So what I've done here is when you're configuring hotkeys, you'll notice that any template hotkeys you configure inside of template or show up in your hotkeys. And so for example, I think last stream, I bound Command Y to automatically insert the current date, for example. But again, the shortcuts is nice for snippets or templates in general, but I think when it comes to hotkeys, it's a little bit awkward actually from a snippet perspective for the most part, right? Like I don't want to bind a bunch of key combinations to different templates. That to me, my brain doesn't, at least to me, I'm not going to memorize that many configurations. But what I might do, on the other hand, is be like, again, / oh, I wanted to do base note, right? Base note, I never created a hotkey for that. So again, I had like about. So if I ever want to create an about section right here, it's just as simple as hitting about, boom, there's my about. And then I can do, and again, because it's the / command, I can be like, I want it to be an H3, and then I'll just do about, and then boom, like it's perfect, like exactly the way I want to. And so I won't spend time on this stream configuring all of mine, but I do think this combination with templater hotkeys combined with / is actually very, very huge, because like, for example, for those who don't know, I use Notion a lot, love Notion, but you can't really customize the blocks in your / and the loading's a little slow. So I like this idea that you can customize what blocks you're inserting going forward, rather than it being like Notion associates it at like the page level, and it's kind of tricky. But anyways, / combined with templater, I think is gold. So, okay. Oh, okay. So Prince. Ooh, how do you begin? Oh, beginning with Obsidian. That is, you know what? Okay. So Prince, what I'm going to do just to make sure that we cover the time correctly is, I think what we're going to do is in the next live session, because one of the things I'm trying to do is get better at breaking up the questions for SEO stuff, is we're going to do, I've been meaning to do this anyways. I'm going to do like a straight up like getting started with Obsidian stream, so that we can have that sort of be a dedicated resource. And then that way it's, because right now one of the challenges I'm dealing with is a lot of my questions, because I just don't have the time to go through it right now, they're buried in the videos. And for me personally, I don't expect people to watch the whole thing and to catch the things. So I'm trying to get better at having specific topics to the streams. So Prince, we're going to have a dedicated getting started with Obsidian. And then from that, as long as once the work is set up, courses and lessons and all that stuff, we'll figure that out. But at the high level though, to answer your question, beginning with Obsidian, I think is the best answer is, I'm having trouble talking. The best answer, in my opinion, is what Cassie actually just said in the chat, which is just treat it like a markdown editor for now. And what I say is basically get used to creating new notes and then linking them together. So being like, oh yeah, this is my sandbox note, this is whatever. If you get used to using it as your markdown editor that combined with the links and getting familiar with that link concept, then you'll be ready to start talking through the other problems you're going to end up having over time. But I'm a big proponent of like starting simple and then letting those, as you start to be like, oh, I want to do this and this, then you'll like build on those skills. So Prince, look forward to that stream. This will be a lot of fun. So just stick with links and text to start out. So, hey, it's a Natalie. I'm guessing it's Natalie. Yes. Okay. We are going to do again. So we'll do Obsidian, getting started and all that fun stuff. And I'll have to think through about like a good high level, like starting pack, and then like how to build on it. Cause I think most people in their note-taking journey end up encountering, in my opinion, very similar problems, or they'll figure out they have a problem later and then realize they want to retroactively do things. So all will come in due time. Okay. So I think we got the questions in the chat. Okay. All right. Excellent. Now, the other main topic I want to do with sort of the remaining time that we have today is I thought it'd be good to use, well, in lieu of trying to be a little bit more focused regarding the stream so people can, especially once they're uploaded to YouTube, because for those who don't know, the Twitch vids, actually, you're not allowed to keep them up for very long. I think they're like 2 weeks tops. So I'm trying lately to get the latest episode up within a week, basically, so people don't feel like they're falling behind, but more importantly, they can have the resources available to them sooner. And so, oh, yes, Tomas, thank you for repeating that. It looks like you should steal one feature from Sodalite. I moved the status bar to the title bar. It's free real estate. What? Hold up, let's check this out real quick. Oh, I already had it open. So the proposal. Oh, so you brought this into here. I see. Okay, so to show y'all what Tomas is talking about, it would be to bring this thing on the bottom here with all your metadata up into the top. Oh, I do like that. Oh wait, Prince, I can teach you workflow you want direct from Twitch to YouTube. So what I am doing with the Twitch videos though is I am doing some editing on it. And over time, I'd like to get better at that because, so basically I'm feeding it through Descript, cutting out some of like the ums, the ahs, and then especially if at the beginning I'm doing sound checks and at the end, like there's kind of rambling, then I try to cut those out so these people have a little bit more of a concise thing. And then in a perfect world, using Descript, then I generate the captions for that, then it's more accessible and I just need more time. Anyways, but honestly, Prince, I do want to learn, kind of figure out what that automation is anyway. So you and I should chat later for sure. That said, oh, Cassidy here regarding daily note. This is an interesting thing regarding breaking a streak. So to show you, I broke my streak, I think about a week ago, as you can see here. Inside of the periodic note, you can see the different days that I have notes for. I didn't do a good job. But see, here's the thing though. That's my part of my problem with like I call it how the habit community has been regarding breaking the chain. I love it to an extent, but because it's such a huge demotivator once you break the chain, I've tried to like shift my perspective on daily notes less so that if it's useful to me in the day, I use it. I'll plan out my day, I'll jot things down, I'll take notes. If it's not significant to me, I still use Obsidian more as a way just to take notes, but instead, I focus on still timestamping things because once again, I don't need to create the daily note for the timestamp to still be useful. So for example, let's say I'm going to publish an episode, like next week, right? I could be like publish episode on 10 or 21, 10, 30, for example. I'm publishing it on the 30th. And what's nice about it is that even if I don't, and for those who are new to Obsidian, when you create links in your notes, the notes don't need to exist. They're basically symlinks. They exist as like a concept. And then whenever you're ready, you can open it and then everything will still link to it accordingly. So that's personally how I feel when it comes to daily notes is don't feel compelled to like, it's sort of like people tell you to journal every day, like use it as it sees fit. If it doesn't work, please don't feel bad about it. It's really there for you. I think the main exercise out of daily notes or the main value to me is the timestamping and then going from there. So let's see. Oh, Jacob is here. Jacob, I gave a shout out to you earlier regarding your chart stream. So very cool. I think if you don't mind, I don't know if you're planning on reposting that episode anywhere, but would love to, if people want to check out what you did with Chart.js and Obsidian Dataview, that would be awesome. So, okay. Oh, Rashlish, you're back. Not to give you anything, but forgiving myself for not hitting my step skill one day in a row, as long as I didn't miss it twice, really helped me to keep a reasonable streak, and I felt proud of it. Hey, you know what? That's great. I do think everyone needs to figure out their bandwidth for that, but I think that the core idea in there is good. I don't think it's gatekeeping at all as far as, honestly, learning to forgive yourself, I think is key to personal development. And a lot of times, because we treat it like this sort of linear growth curve that we need to be like making improvements every day, sometimes we need recovery days and it'll plateau, or worse, you're technically perform worse. We see that if anyone has done any amount of exercising, you know what I mean, right? Like if you play a really hard game of football or volleyball, whatever, you might do really great that day and your physical attributes will like grow, but then the next 2 days, the next week, you might be really sore. And then if you were to try to do the same thing again, probably not going to do as well. But I think that's growth because our goal is long-term sustainable growth, not necessarily, I'll call it like visible, tangible growth. Because that to me is the difference between people who make short-term trade-offs. And this is, in my opinion, most obvious when it comes to money, is because people see, oh, if I make X decision right now, I will make Y money. But then they lose context in what are you trading off for the long term as far as growth potential? Because yeah, theoretically, someone might offer you Y dollars to do something right now, but you also have to remember that means that later on, assuming you follow through on your obligations, you are missing out on opportunities to theoretically or possibly make more. So when it comes to habit streaks and this kind of stuff, I think forgiveness is key. And as long as y'all are having fun taking notes, who cares? So I think that's what matters. So sports, am I right? That's right. Excellent. Oh man, great conversation in the chat about streaks and stuff. Expand the evergreen note. Honestly, yeah. If you want to talk about any like a streak that really you care about, in my opinion, you should be just focused on creating notes, because if you want to talk about long-term effect, like being able to be like this is my graph. I will say this has been one of my funnest parts of, let me see, here we go. This has been one of the funnest parts to me of getting to do all this, is being like, I think a lot of people's wow moments is seeing that long-term effect. And okay, here we go. And so actually, and I'm so glad y'all mentioned this, creating the new notes is a perfect example of when you just do the thing and you do the idea and the note taking. What the graph to me does really well is it shows your growth over time. It doesn't matter if it's one note here and then no notes the next day and then 10 notes another day. After a year, you're going to see growth and you're going to see some really interesting relationship come out of your notes. Granted, it's hard to infer anything from this mess, but when you start filtering down and start looking through things, like that's where, to me, the fun really lives. And so, again, one of the things I love about Obsidian and or how about the whole concept of linked notes, is that you really do, you get, in my opinion, compounding returns on your investment of just writing an idea down, going like, Prince had this great idea, right? So you'll see, for example, like we were talking about like Twitch to YouTube publishing workflow, right? So I can create that new note and I can just be like, it is chomping at the bits because my graph is so big. Although, fun fact, I'm getting the new MacBook Pro with the iMac chip and I'm excited to see what I like the performance difference. I'm hoping that like it just renders the graph like this and it's just so super smooth. Anyways, I'll still have my Air, my M1, and I still have an Intel chip. So it'll be funny to do like a little comparison between them. But anyways, so I could be like, in this one, this was like inspired by, right? And I could just be like, Prince. That's it. And what's great about this is that later, like when I'm talking to Prince, I can just basically queue up backlinks. And actually, let me make sure one sec that there's no like sensitive information on this before I bring this up. And okay, nothing. Okay, this is clean. Okay, great. So you can see here, what's great is that now if ever I'm like having a one-on-one with Prince or we're just hanging out, I can be like, I can just look here with all my linked mentions and be like, yo, oh, that's right. I was talking to Prince about Twitch to YouTube publishing, right? And so it was like, Cassidy in the chat, Prince is a weirdo. Anyways, yes, Tamaz, I did. That graph did light my CPU on fire, even the M1 chip. I think it's, at one point it rendered it pretty smoothly and I was able to navigate it fine, but I think I've clearly passed some tipping point with that. So it is what it is. Hopefully the iPad, the M1 Max with my 64 gigs of RAM and all that stuff will do great. So we'll see. Ooh, Prince, love it. 22 is the year of my Obsidian growth. Yes, however I can help facilitate that, I would love to. It looks like I created Ultron. Do you see that display last night? Oh my gosh, yeah, that display. Woo! And the fact that there's like a specific cleaning cloth for it, because otherwise they're afraid you might damage it. I don't know. I got to do more research into it. Like, and more importantly, I got to see that thing live. I know it's really expensive, but considering how much time I spend in front of the screen, if it makes that much of a difference, personally, I would invest in it. But anyhow, thesis. I bet it's not about CPU performance, but about Obsidian optimization. Oh, that's pretty true. That totally could be the thing. Anna, hello. It's good to see you. Hello. Yes. Things have been busy. Conference season has been a kind of ridiculous, especially with remote events all the time and stuff, but it's been fun. And so glad to see you and hope you're doing well as well. I see Loud Dove in the chat here. So you're telling me that I can justify a 5K computer for Obsidian? Thank you. I'll tell my partner. You know, like, I don't know. I have a very romantic pitch for Obsidian regarding like just getting to unleash your thoughts, your creativities, and seeing that manifest in a way that one is very visual, but one also very tangible. I don't know. To me, that kind of ROI, or not even ROI, that kind of value is not something I don't think I honestly could put a price tag on. Like, I think I was on a podcast recently where someone asked me like what I wish I did earlier in my career. And I wish I had Obsidian and I wish I was taking notes the entire time. Because can you imagine like if I had notes for Obsidian's like dating back to my college days that I could just like look up and see and then relate those things and refactor them and iterate and see how my ideas grew on things. Like, gosh, I would have loved to have Obsidian going to college. Like, that would have been phenomenal. And funny enough, Anna's talking about college. Exactly. I would have I'm just saying. Because then I could just have like an academic tag to like certain courses that relate to ideas. And then when I did my job, I could, this happened recently, actually. I was talking with some friends and we were talking about groupthink, and we were talking about this idea that like a lot of times when you get a large group of people together, a lot of times people just end up going with whatever the decision the group wants, even though ironically no one wants to do it. And so I was like, I literally studied this phenomena in college, or not college, in grad school. And I was like, what the heck was that thing? And like, luckily through conversation we figured it out. But I would have, like, if I had Obsidian, I would have figured out that much faster. And for those who are wondering what it is, it's the Abilene. Oh gosh, I still didn't even create a note about it. Oh gosh, I'm just creating a note right now. And so the Abilene paradox, the phenomena where large groups, or even just groups, actually doesn't have to be large, where groups end up with the decision that actually no one wants to do. So the example for this, the reason why I call it the Abilene paradox is because it's written by, I think the guy who named it is someone who, I think him and his wife were trying to debate whether or not to go visit family in Abilene, Texas, I believe. And so they were just having a conversation that, oh, maybe we should visit family in Abilene. And I think at the time, I think his wife, again, don't quote me on the exact story of this one, but I think the broad strokes are there, which is the wife was like, oh, maybe we should visit your family in Abilene. And the husband was like, in his head was like, oh, I don't really want to go, but like, and then it was like, in an effort to be like getting, to like be like, what am I trying to say? To be like easygoing, right? I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Like, would you like to go to Abilene to see your friends? And then in her mind, she was like, I don't really want to go to Abilene, but I guess if we're gonna see my friends and his, like, yeah, I guess it'll be fine. And so then the wife's like, oh, okay, that's fine. And so they end up going on this trip to Abilene, and then they find out later through like conversation and stuff that like apparently neither of them actually really want to go to Abilene. They just ended up going with it, and then that ended up happening. And so while that's like a cute little couple story, this is actually really dangerous at company, like organization team levels, because what you end up with is people who basically, and this is why this is related to the idea of groupthink. And you have this idea, like this problem now where people are trying to just figure out what the group wants to do and then go along with it rather than just sort of being like, and so part of this also is just a discussion of emotional safety and communication in general, because you in a perfect world you would actually be able to say like, that sounds great, I'm not particularly feeling motivated to go to Abilene, but like, is that something you would like to do? And I think the reason why a lot of people are concerned about talking in that way is because they're afraid that they'll end up like discouraging the other person, because if the other person was really excited about it, all of a sudden it feels like you're like being like the wet blanket in the conversation. And so this is why things like groupthink and Abilene paradox actually tend to happen, is like we're trying to like assume and protect other people's emotions, and as a result, while sometimes in theory you are successful in that because maybe your partner is really excited about going to Abilene and you want to be supportive of that, that's great. But then at the same time, the fact that there isn't that emotional safety for people to just say like, I'm not particularly interested in going, but if you're going, like, I'd love to go kind of thing, and to not have that become like something that sours the evening or whatever. This is all connected to how these kind of things I think need to be solved in the end. And in case you're wondering, my grad degree is in industrial organizational psychology. So if you're wondering why I'm just like sitting here just like rambling and nerding out about it, this is why. It's just a very fascinating topic to me. And so actually I should relate this to groupthink actually. So so this is a great example. Right here, I haven't actually created a note for groupthink because once again, I didn't have Obsidian when I was going to grad school, but groupthink is a common topic that comes around. So I'm just going to create this link right now. I'm not going to create a note and explain what it is. But what's nice is that in the future now, let's say we're closed. I close all of this and we're talking about groupthink with a group. I can be like, I have a note on groupthink. I haven't created it yet. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. But what's great is because of the link mentions here, I can be like, oh yeah, that was related to the Abilene paradox that I was talking about. And so now in the future, I have this thread of, if I'm talking to someone about organizations and I'm like, there was something I learned, I can't remember, but it was related to groupthink, I would just come to my groupthink note, and now I can trust that the Abilene paradox will show up and I will not forget about that. So Cassidy here lovingly calling me a dude. I appreciate it. Let's see. So Tomas here, sometimes people in groups are worried and no one voices their opinion as everyone thinks they are in the minority with it. There was a really interesting cryptographical solution for this described by Cory Doctorow in the book Walk Away. Okay, this is a great example of a real life example of something I actually want to take notes on. So here, this is apparently related to cryptographical solution described by Cory. Okay, so this is kind of related to groupthink then. to me. You know what? This is closer to, I think, my opinion, closer to Abilene paradox. So then looks like there was a, okay, I'm actually just going to copy and paste so I don't retype this. So there was an interesting cryptological discussion. Okay, so here's what I would do. One, this is a quote, and this is not something I wrote. So I'm a big fan of attributing people to their work. So this was whoa, that was not Nathan, Tamaz, who wrote this. And then what I want to do though, because I've started getting used to like where the potential nuggets of information live, I do know that Cory Doctorow, again, while it's unlikely, you would think, right, statistically speaking, that I would ever reference this person, I am actually just going to create a person link reference. In other words, I'm not going to create a note for Cory Doctorow. But what's really cool about this, especially if you do a lot of reading or any sort of medium where, like, let's say you don't read, you like to watch TV shows, then as you start tracking actresses in your, or actors and that, authors and stuff in there, what you end up finding is a lot of them end up talking about each other. So I found this a lot with like Malcolm Gladwell, Adam Grant, a couple other ones. Like the researchers seem to refer to each other's work frequently. And so it's, I don't know if cute's the right word, but I think it's really interesting that like when you're reading a book and you'll be like, oh yeah, so you can like make a note of that author and then you'll see the relationship between books and the ideas and people's takes on those theories as they like develop them. Because they're like, based on this person's idea and based on flow state and etc. It's super, super interesting. So here we go. So, and then the book is called Walk Away. Okay, so here's where I would go. Walk Away by Cory Doctorow, for example. Because for me, when I create book notes, I always like to include the author because sometimes they're just, like walk away is one word. That's something that could occur in something else. So this is nice. And then I'm just going to, this is my book template. So I'm just going to drop that in. And then I'm just going to say, I guess I'll say recommended by Tamaz. Although, do I have two notes for, oh, no, Tamaz, that is the original note. Okay, great. And so great. And there we go. And then decryption keys. If not, choose the same thing that approach that decrypted. Ah, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so Tamaz here, without me going to read the book, although again, it's something I could totally find myself reading at some point. Apparently, for those who, because I know I don't have the chat anymore on the screen, I think because I was having troubles with resolutions and stuff. Basically, the idea behind this solution is that apparently the choices that people made are encrypted, and then people basically try, it's almost like a voting thing, it sounds. And then assuming people would choose the same thing, then it gets decrypted, otherwise they remain secret. Yeah, I mean, and that, but see, here's the thing. I think the problem that cryptology thing ends up solving is the trust thing. And so if you trust the system to keep all your things anonymous and that you can share it in a space where, you know, people aren't going to be offended that you have that idea, I could see how this kind of, and this is why a lot of voting systems work the way they do, right? Especially if you're like, send in your anonymous feedback. What I'd like to see when it comes to in-person interactions, and some of the work I'd like to do more of, honestly, and in my career and in life, is to help people learn how to have those conversations without these systems of because otherwise, imagine if like every single time you go out with a group of friends, you had to like open an app and to do a suggestion, everyone had to like throw in 5 suggestions and then you have to vote. Like, I guess that could work, but I think most of us would ideally want an environment where we could just be like, what are you interested in eating tonight, right? Although granted, I could do a whole conversation on this. So anyways, that said, let me find a good way to choose what's for dinner. Wingmat. Oh, that's really funny. I didn't even see your comment, Wingmat. Okay, what I will say about the dinner thing for those who are curious, my thing, because choosing where to go to eat, I think is notoriously difficult for groups. And so even if this is just with like a friend or partner, this works particularly well, I think, in one-on-one, but I think it works for the larger context is basically be the person to suggest. So the game I always play is it's the rule of 3. Actually, I haven't given it a name yet. I think I can't even take credit. I don't think it's really my game. I can't remember where it was inspired from. Anyways, the idea is you give 3 restaurant choices that you think roughly based on your estimation of what you and the other person might want. And so you basically throw out 3 things. So you might be like, well, we're eating Asian, American, or we're eating European tonight, right? And then so the way the game works is you start with 3 choices, or we could start with 2, but you start with 3 because then the other person can immediately react. I think 3 is that good number where it's not so many choices that it's paralyzing, but then also it's enough variety that it's not binary, so it's not just 2. So the 3, then they could be like, you know what, because this is the other pretense to it. Most people, a lot of times, because decisions are hard, I think when it comes to especially like choosing food, people don't know they don't want it until they hear it. It's one of those things where like if they say, oh, I'm kind of easy, I'll eat whatever. Until you serve them something, then like, oh wait, actually, you know what? Never mind, I didn't want that. The choice of 3 gives them that ability to at least first evoke that reaction of like, ooh, no, I don't want that, or ooh, actually, I want that. And so from the 3, assuming they're like, you know what, I'm not feeling Asian food tonight. I just want American or European. Then the rule of 2, the reason why the game works is because then they've contributed to the conversation, and then they're basically saying, I'm okay with American or European. And then, for example, if I were the one who led this, then I would say, okay, then the final 2, I choose European. How does that sound? And then that way you get a little bit of that dynamic of like, you got people to contribute to their feedback. It was flexible enough because with I'll call it the game of 3 choices, people can always add more. So if they're like, you know what, actually, I'm going to swap out Asian for, and I'll be more specific. I'll say, or maybe not, I'll swap out Asian for Ethiopian food. So then I'll throw it back to you. So now it's my turn to be like Ethiopian, American, European. Then I'll be like, I'll knock out one. And so it gives a little bit more structure to that. And I think the reason why I've liked this approach to decision making is it gives people some structure to making decisions, but in a way that almost practices some of that emotional safety, because people then start getting better at like, I'm not really feeling like this, and it's okay to say I'm not feeling this. But anyways, so oh man, I missed a bunch of stuff in the chat in my little rant. So one of my favorite authors, plus one, I'll read anything he's written. Oh, so Natalie is also a fan of Cory Doctorow. Okay, here we go. Link thinking. I'm going to open Cory Doctorow, and then I'm going to be like, on the notes, so I'm going to say, Natalie likes his work. Boom. That's it. Just that little bit. A little bit, because next time I talk with Natalie, I might just want to be like, hey, like, tell me more about this. So, anyhow. Thesis here. Oh, so that's what this Facebook's metaverse is all about. They simply want to see Ben's notes on everything. No, see, one, actually, I heard stuff about Facebook this week. I actually haven't kept up, to be honest. But this is why I am a huge fan of Obsidian, because Facebook, no one owns my notes except the people I gave permission to, aka Obsidian does technically own a set of my notes, some encrypted version on their servers because I'm syncing with them. But otherwise, this is why I'm very, very wary of giving people control of my data when it comes to things like notes and ideas. So nope, I don't care if Facebook comes out with the best note-taking tool ever. That's not happening. Not for me. So okay, so Claude in the chat. Where do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? Yep, I'm down for whatever. I have done that cycle so much with my family in particular that's part of the reason. I know for a fact I cannot claim credit for the original creation of the idea, but I'm happy to spread it and share it. I think I'm gonna call it the decision of 3 though. Maybe I'll call it that. Maybe that's a little, I don't know. I'll find out something that's catchy. Oh man. Wingmat, that was well done. What would Facebook even call their notes app? Notebook? Badooms. I love it. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so Tamaz, here we go. Oh, okay. So there's an article here regarding so here, this is what Tamaz has sent me. I'm not going to read it right now, but it is a review of the Walkway book. So inside of here, I am going to do Walkway. And then, oh, did I actually spell that wrong? Was it Walk Away? That is what it's called. Okay, so then I'm just going to add a little resources snippet here. And then I'm just going to drop this here. And then actually I'll just be like, recommended by Tamaz. There you go. So again, don't have time to read it. But to me, this is, in my opinion, a more sustainable way to do bookmarking. Rather than having to always manage a bunch of folders and relationships. Again, Tamaz recommended this article that's related to the book Walk Away. So now I have 2 points of entries. I can either look up Tamaz to figure out what article he recommended, and eventually I'd find my way back here, or I go to court. Like, again, this is like the big brain stuff. So, oh wait, Tamaz told me to search for Love Dares Not. I gotta get to Ben's questions next. Let me see. Here we go. Command Shift Tab in play again because I closed that tab recently. So let's see. Love Dares Not. Ooh, okay. I don't have time to read this right now, but I will make sure to make a note of that in here. Look for Love Dares Not, and then that's when I'll have time to take it out. Okay, excellent. Okay. So we have a question here from B Holmes Dev. You are not derailing at all, Ben. Appreciate you stopping by. So All right, so the comment here is, I've been loving the person template to keep track of people's profiles whenever I mention them. However, I also want those links to be discoverable in a data view. In other words, when I take notes on an article, add author name to jot down that author's profile, I want to then expose author name as a column in my data view of articles. Any way to get creative with metadata, include wiki links with this. I tried adding author name to my metadata, but I can't see when viewing my notes. Ha! Yes! Ben, what a great question. This is a problem I did end up solving because I had the same exact thing I wanted to do as well. So and this is not a derail at all. This is a great segue into this. Let's take the article here about the quarry walkway. Let's actually go ahead and turn this into a full-blown note. Because let's say like this is something I want to make sure like this is no longer, I can't, my hotkeys, sorry. Okay, so let me open this up to the side. So let's go and open this up. All right, so we have this, I don't know, it looks like this is a review by Nicole Powers. So while the author while it's like the official name of this article is this, I am probably not going to call it that. I'm probably actually going to call it, okay, first of all, colons are not valid. So I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to say walkway review by Nicole Powers. And so this to me is how, at least to me, how I'm going to think about the note going forward. So then I have this, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to build this up from scratch because I think if I insert the page template, it'll be a little overwhelming. So for me, this is a type of an article. And so this article is something that I'm going to want to eventually read. So I have a status attribute for status backlog. And then importantly, I want to actually talk about who the author is. I think actually I made this creators, but let's just make it author. And so for this author, then this is where I'm going to say this is Nicole Powers. So just with these three metadata properties alone, by allowing the link to exist here as well as right here, then what I can do is I don't actually have one. So we're going to create one together. If I had an articles dashboard here, so let's go ahead and create that open. And then I'm going to go ahead and actually close all the other notes so that you all don't have to deal with the multiple panes. We're going to open up a Dataview block. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a table where we're going to, let's just have the status as one of the columns from all of my articles and type article, and actually type article might be adequate. So if I go ahead and let me open this up now on the side to preview mode, you'll see that I actually have 4 different articles. Again, I'm clearly, oh, that's right. I have a whole, I'm trying to play around with like whether article makes sense or resource. Anyways, so great. You can see that my backlog is here, but because actually, let me go ahead and open the doctoral Nicole Powers here on the side here real quick. Because I'm using this double colon syntax, what I can do now is just like I did with status, I can expose author. And so when I expose author, there we go. You'll check that out. There is Nicole Powers. And so it looks great. It's still, but it's also still leveraging the backlink linking functionality. It's just now you've exposed it via a metadata property on it. And so now you can have the author with the backlog and all that fun stuff. So that's how I would solve that as far as combining the power of Dataview with still using wiki links to enhance metadata properties. So I hope that was helpful. I see here thesis in the chat. They will hire the best hackers to get their hands on all of Ben's notes with precious relationship between authors, actors, and stuff. Honestly, I'm very humbled by people who are impressed with the notes that I take. But if you ever want to, like, if you want to check out people's like graphs, if you're ever in the Obsidian Discord channel, there are some mind-blowingly like intricate notes that people have taken that I also highly respect and admire. So that said, so Ben, yes, I just wrote a bunch of front matter like this. Yes, so Ben, the double colon is the game changer when it comes to Dataview, like single-handedly, because as you probably have encountered with front matter in Obsidian, it's still not perfect. There's still things you'd like to, because again, the wiki links don't I think that's what you probably ran into. The wiki links don't really work up there. And there's I think they're still figuring out what their API is going to be around that. And so it's for that reason, I have my whole footer template in here. And so this is unnecessary. This is unnecessarily complicated. Again, I'm thinking about ways to improve this. But I basically have all of these different things that I've been testing out. Then basically this goes at the bottom of notes and some sort of composition of these various things. But this way, this gives me the Dataview benefits. And then at the same time, it means that like I have everything at the bottom rather than like a ton of stuff at the top. Because, you know, for what it's worth, when you're opening your notes, I'm not sure people want to be confronted with front matter, a ton of it at least, right at the very top. So yeah, see, yep. So Ben here, exactly. So when you put the wiki links, like basically when you're linking in front matter, it doesn't work the way you want it to, basically, because you expect it to just know where everything is. It doesn't work that way. Anyways, okay. So this has, okay, we're not done yet. Don't worry. I still have 10 minutes. So let's open up the OOO. So office hours 18. All right. So we talked a lot about a lot of different things. And so I'm going to have to go through some really great discussions. So once again, I absolutely love the chat and the energy that y'all are bringing to it. Loud love, loud dove. Back matter doesn't have quite the ring to it. No, not back matter. No. Let's see. And what is the name of the plugin using to make those tables? Dataview. Yes, it is. It is Dataview. So Dataview is, I think, business in the front matter, party in the backlink. Love it. Yeah. So Anna, Dataview is the one that allows you to basically do queries against your notes, but in a very intuitive way. So again, if I just again the articles dashboard, you can see here that it kind of it's a little bit of a SQL-like syntax, but basically in this it's a table. But for example, maybe instead of a table, you really just want a list. So it can just be a list. Oh, whoops. And so the list here, you'll see is just a list, and it'll just accumulate all the notes that are match a certain query. And so this is also one of those things where I honestly should have just like a dedicated YouTube video to Dataview, which I plan to do, to be honest, because it's just even just grasping the fundamentals, even if you don't love coding, for anyone who's like, oh, I don't like coding. It's not about coding. It's just like, it's actually quite intuitive from like I want a table with these properties, and then I want to sort by and blah, blah. It's great. So that for another time, but feel free to check those out. Do data list views connect the dots in the graph? From Loud Dove. That's the thing I don't think it does, because really what it's doing is doing a query of the things that match that. So theoretically, if your notes already have relationships along those lines, there is a very good chance, if I'm not mistaken, they're already linked that way in Obsidian, in the graph itself. That said, though, you're kind of, actually, you do bring kind of a good point. No. Actually, I know what you mean. So, for example, are all of these articles now linked to articles dashboard? I don't believe so, which is kind of unfortunate, actually, because, for example, if we go to Cory Doctorow's review right now and I look at the backlog here, there is no linked mentioned inside of here, which is kind of unfortunate. Honestly, if maybe we could like file an issue with the Dataview author and see if that's possible, because that would be great. Because you are saying that it's like it's important on this article dashboard. So Loud Dove, that is a clutch call out right there. That is something that would make Dataview even better, is to say that like this note is relevant on these queries and these pages that we're like assembling together. So, okay. I still have time to cover the, ironically, what was supposed to be a main topic. But I think the things we've talked about today are incredibly valuable, and love the discussion. So again, love the energy. But I do want to get to something that I had been thinking a lot about. Oh, I just realized this is my today's note. That's not what I wanted. I want my office hours stuff. So office hours 18. Okay, excellent. Okay, published episode. So this is not relevant. I don't want to do this. Okay. Oh, I didn't shout this out, but this is from, I can shout this out another week. Okay. The uses dashboard. This is what I actually wanted to create today. And so in the next, I can do this in the next like 8 minutes. We're going to talk about the uses page. And what I mean by that is something that my coworker Kenny actually recently did was he actually did his uses page. And actually, so let me show Kenny.engineer. So he created a page that basically tracks all of the things and tries to basically what he's using on the day to day. I have one as well, as you can see, benkozen.io/uses, but it is incredibly out of date. So I think, for those who have followed, I have talked about this a few times, but I'd really like to at least start by making sure that at the bare minimum it's updated in Obsidian, because that is probably the easiest way for me to keep track of the ideas I have around different hardware and stuff that I purchase, so that I can write reviews, and then that can go on like a formal page and that sort of stuff. And so I thought it would be fun for us to go ahead and scaffold that together. And so with the time we have, I'm going to scaffold what I actually will be using for my uses dashboard. So, I have a uses page right here. Interesting. Interesting. I started scaffolding some ideas. And so this is what's great. So again, actually, this is a great example of how my brain actually probably would have called this uses dashboard, like instantly. Like if I were creating a new note, so if I had done like create new note, I would have been like, actually, that didn't work. Can I open untitled again? Untitled, delete untitled, then fire the new note in new. It's funny that new create note in new. Oh gosh. Anyways, yeah, same deal. See, that's what I also don't like. Is like I have to like now go in and manually rename it. But like if I was just like uses dashboard, and I just created a new note like that, like think about it. I just lost all that context. And I'd have to like later on find out that I did all this work on one note and not another. Like, no, I don't have time for that. So I'm just gonna delete this file. And this is why I've switched my command N to even be the quick switcher to open, because that's what I want my default to be. So that way when I go uses, I'm like, oh, yeah, uses page, I have one. But, and then this is how you iterate on notes. And this is how at least I do it. Uses page was not the first thing I thought of. I actually wanted it to be dashboard. So what the heck? I'm just going to switch it out. The main note is going to just be called uses dashboard. But clearly uses page had its value. And past self told me that at one point that I wanted to call it a uses page. So I'm just going to go ahead and add it as an alias so that if my brain ever switches context and it reverts and wants to say uses page, that's totally fine. So I have some inspiration regarding like what I want to do regarding a wire cutter style, having a pick section. This is great, but what I need is actually starting to get like an inventory. So it's almost like if I were to redesign this page. So actually, I am going to copy this blurb. This actually helps me get a little better sense of the content that I'm creating. And so there you go. And then I'm actually going to make the uses page here like that. And then what I want to do is actually link to Wes Boss, because he is the original inspiration for me. So I don't have a note for Wes Boss yet. There you go. He's the one who should really take credit for this. And then, okay, now here's the thing I want to do. I have picks, which to me it's like currently using basically, because if it's a pick, it's something I'd like to, it's actually in use. And so we have a bunch of different categories I could do. But then here's the thing. I could almost do like a review, like reviews. Because for those who don't know me, I'm kind of a sucker for trying out new technology. And because I'm a huge fan of this like idea of like, if you can improve your workflow 1% every day, you get this huge compounding effect. So whenever I find technology, hardware, software, anything that like I feel I can solve a problem and improve my workflow that 1%, I almost never think twice to like invest the money in it, because to me it's like yes, it's not less about the material and owning it. It's more honestly about the personal growth and development. And that to me is money I have kind of established early on in my career I'll never regret investing in, because it's one thing to just own something because it's shiny. It's another because you're actually trying to solve a problem with it. And then hopefully like what you learn from it, while you might not get the full use out of it. So for example, I bought plenty of technology where for the money I spent on it, I didn't quote unquote get the value out of it. But I think there's a tricky trade-off when it comes to technology and uses like that, is because if all of your equipment always could be used to the maximum dollar value, I think you're losing out on the value of iteration. And so, and again, this is a great example of like short-term trade-offs versus long-term trade-offs. And don't get me wrong, always be budget conscious and all that stuff. I'm 100% not encouraging anyone to go into debt to do these things. It's just more about this idea that like, if something you really do think will solve a problem for you, I personally think if you have the expenditures for it, I personally have found it's paid off for me in the long run. It might not seem apparent in the moment, but it tends to. So, Cassidy's off to stream, which means it's a cue for me to start wrapping this up. So that said, let's see, templater, always open even if, okay, great. So there's top, okay, great. Let's talk about that. All right, Cassidy, we'll see you in a bit. So, Anna, you're talking about a file name creating to create the H1. That is totally possible. Please, in your templater, I'm going to show this real quick. So I have like a base note. Again, this is in the boilerplate now, so it's in GitHub. I have like a little script to check which file it is. But then inside of your template, so for example, let's say it's my app page template. I just have an H1 with the, this is not a good example because I replaced the title. How about build with Ben template? Better. Yeah, here. This is a very simple snippet that will do exactly what you want, which is it will open your note and templater will take whatever the file name is and inject it as your H1. So just know that it is that easy. If you have any problems getting that set up, please hit me up and then we'll figure it out for you. Promise. One to generate heading, another plugin to do that. Ben, we need a DM me. We should. I'm curious what you're doing to do that. Oh, to keep the heading and file name in sync. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that I want to learn more about. But anyhow, okay, that's that. Okay, so as I'm wrapping up, I'm thinking reviews for all the different things I've purchased. And then, okay, so eventually, as far as like wrapping up this topic, because I don't want to drag this out into the next stream, my goal here is to actually basically use this. Okay, actually, we're just going to write it right now. I'm going to have Dataview queries that would say basically things like, let's just say it's a list for now. And then the list would come from type gear. So any gear that I've bought. And then I'll do status. I'll say active because it's actively in use. And then that's it. I think that's all I'd want. And so as you can see here, oh, this is interesting. It has like a random code. These are definitely not accurate, but that's good. So this is, and then versus like review here might just be like things that are inactive that people might want to read about. So I think these are probably the two sections. So again, as far as a low level query right now, this is what I'm going to need. And so this will motivate me over time to like, well, especially I already know actually, I need a table where type is actually going to be a thing. Because for now, I probably actually need to see what type. Yeah, see? So this one's headphones. And eventually, I'll probably group the headings into headphones and stuff like that. So this is good. And it'll allow me to start managing my equipment better. Because actually, that's the nice thing about a usage page, if you're doing this in Obsidian, is then you can keep track of what you think about different equipment. But more importantly, you get a sense of what you actually own over time. Because if you're anything like me and you buy like multiple things or you keep trying things out, you lose track of what you buy, you lose track of what you think of things. And so this is sort of my beginning of remedying those things. So with that said, we are at time. Huge thanks everyone for hanging out. It's been a ton of fun. I hope you all have a wonderful day and a fantastic weekend. It's been fun. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.